It is NWA review time as this week's Powerr twice bitten come our way on Roku over in the States. And what a fun show it was. And the highlights of the show, Eric Smalls looking to get a measure of revenge after his heinous attack by former buddies Knox and Murdoch at the Crockett Cup. We also had Alex Misery against the debut in which Swann in number one contenders action. Tiffany Nieves was defending that her TV championship, and let's just say La Princesa had a rather interesting show. Also, like I said, defending a TV championship against the UK's own Aleah James, and in the main event, the returning Pope battled Mims in a one-on-one non-title encounter. Lots to get through on this fun episode of NWA this week, kicking things off with the aforementioned Knox and Murdoch. Now, as I just said, they were unlucky in the Crockett Cup. They lost to the Immortals, the eventual winners. Oh, but when they did lose their match against the Immortals, it come at a cost. They attacked their buddy Eric Smalls. Now, Eric Smalls compared Smalls by name, Smalls by nature. You know, hasn't really got it against Knox and Murdoch. So he brought along a team. He handpicked a team to take on Knox and Murdoch. And Ty Awesome was one of these guys, as Carson as well. Not Carson Drake, Carlson, I might add. Um, I've got a feeling they wish that they didn't. Knox and Murdoch absolutely decimated this team. And yeah, Eric Smalls looking on the outside of the ring. There was some heavy chops in this. There was at one point when Mike Knox was covering one of them, and he just pulled their hair right. He weren't playing. He weren't messing around today. He didn't care about these. They got absolutely launched into the steel steps at one point in this match as well. Danny Dills on his commentary, I must say, "Wings of Mercury" is one of the things that he says. I think it's just hilarious. Um, anyway, it was a devastating high low that got the victory for Knox and Murdoch, and in doing so, Smalls gets on the mic and says, "Hey, I had to tell my kids that Uncle Trevor and Uncle Mike done this to me when I was in the hospital bed. I want to match with you later on in the show." Billy Corgan, sorry, on commentary was like, we can't, we can't sanction this. It's got to be against one of them. Can't be against both." And anyway, we will see which member of Knox and Murdoch decides to take on Smalls a little bit later on in the show. However, now we come to this week's Bit Crush episode, and it was an angry Mike Mondo demanding to see the manager, who we find out his name is Mel, and he's not happy with the two there. And the two were from the Uncle Billy's bar, I believe, in previous episodes of Powerr. He wasn't happy. He was demanding to see Mel. He wanted Mel. Well, eventually, out from the room comes a flustered Tiffany Nieves with Mel, who coincidentally is wearing a Gangster Gimp top, which you can get on nwashop.com or merch.com, wherever you get the NWA merchandise. I'd get it. Gimping ain't easy. Oh man. Brilliant. Outstanding. Gimping ain't easy, folks. Um, anyway, he comes out wearing that top with Tiffany and Vic, who was the counselor from Conflict Resolution. Doesn't take a genius. You don't have to speak seven languages and earn a lot of money to know what was going on in that room. Anyway, Mondo's not happy. Certainly not happy with Tiffany either, and Mel and Vic. But Tiffany Nieves rips into Mondo. She's a princess, basically just telling him in no uncertain terms to fuck off or do one if you're a kid. Get it, got it, bueno. And that was the end of a very interesting Bit Crush segment. Tiffany Nieves. I mean, she is La Princesa for a reason, right? She gets what she wants, and looking like she got it. Bueno. Anyway, back with Knox and Murdoch, and they're thinking they were actually at the back going, we're actually a bit scared of Smalls here. You know, he comes up to our crotch, which Smalls in the balls is his motto, and they were going to figure it out. They tried to play rock, paper, scissors, and they were drawing all the time. So they were going to figure it out who was going to face Smalls a little bit later on in the show. But now here comes a debut, and it's a debut I was looking forward to. Rich Swann debuting on NWA. This was a number one contendership match for the Junior Heavyweight Championship held by Alex Taylor. Alex Taylor has taken Billy Corgan's fucking Steve Coogan, Billy Corgan's place on commentary at this point while he tries to sort out on politics between Knox and Murdoch with a match against Smalls. So AT, too hot to trot, joins Joe Galley and Danny Dills on commentary. And it is Alex Misery from the Lost against Rich Swann. This was absolutely brilliant. Alex Misery, I'm telling you now, he is so good. And I'm hoping this thing with the Lost is going to elevate him even further with Jim Mitchell, with Lev, with Gags. But Misery is so good. This was just Misery's a champion waiting to happen, and that's not because he scared the shit out of me in a recent interview either. He's just so good. Him and Rich Swann just work so well together. The intricacies in the ring, Swann with his educated feet. It did spill to the outside, but it was just such a good high flying, high speed, exciting contest. Um, in the ring. He did hit a frog splash at one point. Rich Swann for a two. The only thing I would point out at this match, my only observation, was Jim Mitchell, Lev on the outside of the ring, never got involved in the match, which is unusual when they're outside of the ring. Normally, outside interference rears its ugly head. Not in this case. This didn't happen. And I think, actually, to be fair, it didn't need to happen. This match was so good. And I think it would have ruined what was a great match if they had if they had interfered in there. It would have definitely made for a less of a match. But this was great. At the end of this match was a Phoenix splash by Rich Swann, and the 1, 2, 3 means that he goes to NWA 77 in a few weeks' time against Alex Taylor, too hot to trot of the Southern Six. That match right there is money, people. That is take your money already just by that match alone is your in. I don't know what I was going to say there. Admission match, admission alone in that match. Christ, Adam, talk. That is admission alone. Great match. And yeah, Alex Misery for me is a champion waiting to happen in the NWA. And Rich Swann is Rich Swann. He's so good anyway. Um, Tremendous. Now, we go backstage at this point to Aaron Stevens. Now, over the last few weeks, Aaron Stevens has been trying to get Carson Drake, basically been trying to get him on side so he can manage Carson. He believes that Carson's lacking him really in a lot of ways, and that's why Carson Drake's bank account isn't as big as his. That's why Carson Drake hasn't had the success that he has, and that's why Carson Drake hasn't won the championships and hasn't got a resume like Aaron Stevens. And Aaron Stevens is going to give him 24 hours to make up his mind, to which Carson says, I don't need 24 hours. The answer is no. Well, Carson, I don't know, because I think Aaron Stevens makes a great point. You're in your career in the NWA has been great, but it could be better. You could have and should have beat Tom Latimer, and Aaron Stevens made that point. The only thing I would say in the defense of Carson is Aaron Stevens also had the opportunity to beat Tom Latimer for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in their Mint Julep. Yes, that was the match, the Mint Julep match. And he didn't get the job done either. So, in Carson's defense, there's a reason there, and I can understand that. But Aaron does make a good point that Carson is lacking something in the NWA that would elevate him to that level. Is Aaron Stevens the answer to that question? I guess time will tell. But as of right now, Carson Drake said no. Now, before we get any further on NWA, just to make out, NWA Exodus Pro Wrestling presents Hexodus next weekend on the NWA YouTube channel. If you can't make it down to the Tree Lawn Music Fair in Cleveland, Ohio, it is on there. We will be watching it and reviewing it as well on this channel. So make sure that you tune in to the NWA. Make sure you tune in to Exodus Pro Wrestling live, 8 p.m. Eastern, no, 6:05 Eastern on the NWA YouTube channel for Hexodus. There's going to be lots of good stuff going on. The Carson Drake Memorial Trophy, or the Carson Drake Trophy, is going on there. Marty Bell will defend her newly won Women's Exodus Pro Championship. And in the main event, Dante Casanova will be going one-on-one with J Rock Daddy for the NWA Midwest Heavyweight Championship. Do not forget to watch Hexodus on the NWA YouTube channel. Back to NWA Powerr now. And Smalls, like we said earlier on, he wanted Knox and Murdoch. Billy Corgan wasn't going to let that happen. He said you can have one, not both. And it was always going to be a case of who it was going to be. Well, it was neither. Actually, say it was neither. It was both of them. And they absolutely come in here and tore, well, basically tore him a new one. Or tore Smalls a new one. They battered him. An absolute battered beatdown. They done a mini high low on him as well because obviously the high low is a clothesline and a leg sweep, and with Smalls' height, they had to get down on their knees. So it had a bit of insult to injury. And it wasn't very nice for Smalls. I have a feeling that revenge will be best served cold, but this is why the NWA show was called Twice Bitten, of course. Poor Smalls. Hopefully you're not in hospital again, but you took a hell of a beatdown from Knox Murdoch. The refs that were in there didn't really have a chance either, which is a shame. And also, maybe you should have picked a better team to come out against Knox and Murdoch in the first place. Just saying. But I hope you're okay. Cold Brief Isles is next. Now, this has been a weird one. So over the last few weeks on Powerr, there has been, excuse me, a will that's being read. And this will is all about, there's been a lot of people listed, and there's like $12 million, I think, up for grabs. And last week it was left that they had the week to come out with what they were going to do with Zed and Money. Kenzie Page was questioning why Hunter Drake and everyone was here because they'd technically been disqualified, but Hunter got an exempt. I think he was exempt from that, which we found out. And well, within that, she said that she loves children and she would give back and was going to put a school of house rock or was going to be built with the money. Hunter Drake said, hey, we'll get an electric skateboard, get it at a skate park. Yeah, the kids can have it, which was quite funny. Brian Idol spoke for him and Mark Over and was said, actually, we'll give back in terms of a pro wrestling school. Tyler Franks was a little bit emotional during this and was kind of like shitting on everybody else. But then he was pointing at somebody and he turned around and he was pointing at Aaron Stevens, who had never been a part of this up until now. And he actually kind of talks, giving us a lecture about inheritance and then said about potentially spending the money on a racehorse. To which Tommy Henry said, look, I've had enough of this BS. We're going. And he tries to get Kenzie to go. He tries to get Tyler Franks and Hunter Drake to go. Kenzie a little bit reluctant because she didn't know, obviously, if this was legit or not. But that's how it was left this week. Also, what's been going on recently on Powerr is Thrillbilly Silas Mason has been challenging the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Tom Latimer to a match at NWA 77. Thus far, Latimer hasn't responded, but this week he did, and he basically said he's found his opponents, and that Frillbilly, because you got eliminated from the Jax Dane tournament in round one, you're at the back of the line, mate. Is what he said. That's what he said. So back of the line, Frillbilly. I'm sure he's going to be ecstatic to hear that. That's for sure. But anyway, back in the ring now, the Women's TV Championship. Aleah James from the UK, 6:05 time limit. Goes against, well, La Princesa, Tiffany Nieves, as we said earlier on. Get it, got it, bueno. She certainly did. Sam Starr at ringside as well for Tiffany. Like I said, 6:05 limit for these television championship matches. They did mention the Lucky Seven on this one. Not quite sure how far Tiffany is into said Lucky Seven, but nevertheless, that is an interesting one to keep an eye on. This was great. It was only 6:05, and you were wishing it was 16:05 or 20:05 or whatever. This was just such a good sprint. Aleah James put in a great account of herself on NWA and her debut. I really hope that NWA look at her as a permanent addition to that division because she fits in it like a glove. Tiffany Nieves is, hopefully NWA don't mind me saying this, but she's one of the best unsigned women around. I mean, Kenzie and Kylie. I know technically they're signed to NWA, but you know what I mean by signed TNA, AEW, WWE. She's had an 18 months that I said this recently on an episode of Power, and I said that I feel as if her accomplishments have kind of gone under the radar because of everything that the Page sisters have been through, doing and done, and their storyline has kind of quieted down a little bit at the minute. But I feel as if she's definitely gone under the radar in a lot of ways, Tiffany Nieves, and this was brilliant. This match, she did hit and eat defeat for a two. She finally got the submission victory over Leah James with around 30 seconds or so to go. But my God, it was such a great match. Like I said, excuse me. Hopefully, we'll see more of Aleah James in the future. Markova was next. Sorry, it's a certain flavor of Pepsi. Other drinks are available from all good retailers, of course. Um, Markova was next. She's ready for Kenzie Page. Well, you should have been ready the last three times that you fought her and lost. Nevertheless, NWA 77 is right around the corner. Kenzie Page, Markova for the women's NWA Women's Championship one more time, which should be, to be fair, a great match. In all honesty, but I just feel Markova's had so many opportunities at the championship that she's never taken. Um, yeah, maybe someone else, but nevertheless, look, she's beaten them all. She's, like she said, she's beaten Kylie, she's beaten Hunter, she's beat everybody near enough in the division to get this other shot and coming your way, NWA 77, which you can see on Roku in the coming weeks on NWA Power. Then we get to the Kazanas, Joe Kazana, Casey Kazana, AJ Kazana. And over the last few weeks, as everybody will know that watched it, they've had an issue with Tommy Henry and the team down at KFW. Well, they're basically saying that you can't handle KFW. You can't handle, sorry, JCP, KFW. And with that in mind, next week it's going to be Tommy Henry and Hunter Drake versus the Country Gentlemen on Power, which will be a really, really good, solid match. Speaking of solid matches, we now get to the main event of NWA Power, and it is non-title, but it's Big Strong Mims against the Pope, the former Elijah Burke. One thing I do say, I now have Mims's theme song, and I do like Mims's theme. It's actually quite, it's from Downstain. Those of you just type in Big Strong Mims theme into YouTube. Anyway, and I digress on that. This was great because this was like it was like a former teacher v student in a way. The Pope using his experience in there, Mims using his strength. One thing, does the Pope age? I know that everyone always used to say this about the real Pope, but the Pope. Does he like age or what moisturizer does that guy use? Because his genetics are unbelievable. Um, Again, this was a great match. There's at one point during this where Mims was a little bit hesitant. He had the Pope down and he was, punching him, and he didn't end up doing it. And then he ended up doing it. So he was kind of hesitant for a minute. Maybe he was just trying to get um, into the head of Elijah Bone. It didn't work. There's a big German suplex into this. And then the Elijah Express, if I can still call it that, or the Pope Express, shall we say? It used to be called the Elijah Express. Getting the victory in a non-title match against Mims. Now, you would think that that would put him in contention for the television title, but no. Mondo and Slade come out to attack the Pope at the end of this, put a big beat down on him, and slam his leg into a steel chair. Does that put a dent in the Pope's aspirations to winning championships in the NWA? Mondo and Slade not happy at all with the Pope, and that is how Powerr come to an end with a bit of a match graphic for next week, uh, which we're going to get Kenzie Page in action next week, which should be a good episode of Powerr against woman who's been WWE actually. I can't remember what her name was. Elektra Lopez in the WWE. So she'll be making her NWA debut next week against Kenzie Page in what will be a real great match. But like I said, guys, you can catch NWA on Roku on any time on demand, but normally on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Get it watched. You're missing out on some great action on the NWA. And we'll be back with some more interviews, some more review shows. Just keep it locked onto the channel. Until then, everybody. Take care and goodbye.